She hid from her ex and fell into a closet already taken by a millionaire CEO. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. The music at the Westbrook estate shimmered through the hall like champagne bubbles rising and falling with every laugh, every clink of crystal. It was the kind of party where the lights were warm, soft gold, and everything looked expensive enough that Ava Miller felt afraid to even breathe too hard. Her dress was rented, her heels were borrowed, and her heart was thudding fast enough to drown out the orchestra string section. She was working tonight, not partying, a junior event assistant tucked behind the scenes of other people's luxury. Her job was simple: check the catering timing, track the VIP arrivals, and try not to get noticed. But everything inside her froze the moment she caught sight of a face she never wanted to see again. Her ex. Derek. Tall, sharp smile and moving through the crowd like he owned every room he entered. Ava's pulse spiked. He was not supposed to be invited. He was not supposed to be anywhere near her life again. Not after the months of controlling texts, the jealous scenes, the threats disguised as affection. She spun on her heel, praying he had not seen her. Her breath came shallow as she darted between groups of laughing guests, past a waiter carrying a silver tray of champagne past a floral archway. She needed somewhere dark, quiet, hidden. The hallway outside the main ballroom was mercifully empty. Without thinking, Ava grabbed the handle of the nearest door, slipped inside, and shut it gently behind her. It was a walk-in closet. Dark, narrow, filled with the faint scent of cedar and expensive cologne. Ava pressed her back against the wall, trying to steady her breathing, her fingers shaking as she covered her mouth. She closed her eyes, praying Derek would not follow. She could hear her heartbeat louder than the music outside. But then, a low voice close enough to feel its breath near her ear whispered, "If you move, they will hear you." Ava almost screamed. She slapped her hand harder over her mouth, eyes snapping open in the dark. Someone was in here. Someone had been here before she barged in. She stumbled back, her shoulder brushing against a firm arm. Her fingers grazed the sleeve of a tailored suit she could not see but could feel in the darkness. The stranger shifted slightly, careful, controlled, and whispered again, softer this time. "It is all right. You are safe." Ava stared into the shadows, her breath trembling. As her eyes adjusted, she saw the outline of a man, broad shoulders, a crisp suit, a quiet presence, completely still, except for the gentle rise and fall of his breathing. She had run from one danger and crashed into someone else entirely. But this man did not feel threatening. He felt composed, calm, almost protective. Her voice was barely a whisper. Who are you?" The stranger paused as if debating how much to say. "Someone who is also avoiding someone tonight." Ava blinked, confused but too frightened to question it further. She pressed her back against the shelves, trying to make herself small. Her camera bag bumped against her hip, and the little metallic click from the old film camera echoed in the tight space. The man's head turned toward the sound. "Is that a film camera?" She nodded instinctively, even though he could barely see it. "Yes." His voice lowered. "I did not expect anyone else here to carry one." Ava's breath steadied just a little. The terror eased, replaced by a fragile thread of curiosity she did not understand. She should have been terrified. She should have run. But something about his voice, warm, grounded, strangely gentle, kept her rooted. Outside, Derek's voice drifted down the hall, calling her name. Ava's chest tightened. The stranger spoke again, barely above a breath. "Stay still. He will leave." And so she did. Two strangers pressed into the dark, sharing silence, sharing fear, sharing the first spark of a twist of fate neither of them could have imagined. Ava did not know how long she stayed frozen in that closet. It felt like minutes. It felt like hours. But at last Derek's voice faded down the hall, swallowed by the music of the party. The stranger beside her let out a slow breath, one that seemed to release the pressure in the whole room. "You can step out first," he said quietly. His tone was steady, polite, almost gentle, as if he understood how shaken she was. Ava reached for the door, her hand trembling against the brass handle. When she slipped outside the hallway, lights felt blinding after the darkness. She turned back just as the man stepped out behind her. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" he asked. "For not scaring me more than I already was." A small, brief smile touched his lips. It was the first real expression she had seen from him. "You handled it better than most would." She opened her mouth to ask his name, but a group of guests passed through the hall, and when she looked back, he had already blended into the crowd, moving with a calm, deliberate stride. He did not look back. Ava returned to her event duties, but the rest of the night felt strange, unreal. Every time she checked the lighting or directed a server, her mind kept flashing back to that moment in the closet. His voice, his quiet reassurance, the way he noticed her film camera even in the dark. By the time the party ended, Ava was exhausted. She collected her clipboard and hurried outside, grateful for the cool night air. The estate's driveway glowed with strings of lights wrapped around the tall oak trees. Her bus stop was a 10-minute walk down the hill, and she hugged her jacket against the breeze as she started down the path. Her phone buzzed. A text from her landlord. Rent reminder. Her stomach tightened. She had 2 days. She reached the stop, sat down, and finally let herself breathe. The bus took her into the city, the glowing windows flashing across her tired face. By the time she reached her apartment, the sky had turned deep blue, and her roommate's bedroom light was already off. Inside her small room, Ava set her film camera on the desk. The metal was cool under her fingertips. She should have felt relief that the night was over, but instead she felt the strange pull of a moment that refused to leave her. She replayed everything in her mind, the quiet command, "If you move, they will hear you," the steady breath beside her, the sense that he was hiding something too. Someone like him did not simply hide from people at a party. There had been calmness in him, but also heaviness. Ava shook her head, telling herself to stop thinking about it. He was a stranger. Nothing more. Their paths would never cross again. But the next morning proved her wrong. Her boss called her unexpectedly and asked her to deliver a package to a corporate partner downtown. It was close to the event venue from the night before, so Ava agreed. She dressed quickly, grabbed her camera bag, and headed into the city. The corporate tower was tall, glassy, modern. She approached the reception desk and announced her delivery. The receptionist nodded and directed her to wait in the lobby until someone came to sign for the package. A few minutes passed. Then she felt someone's presence before she even saw him. A familiar voice spoke behind her. "You made it here safely." Ava turned, her breath caught. It was him, the stranger from the closet. In the bright morning light, he looked entirely different. Sharper, composed, confident in a way that made the party version of him feel like a shadow. His suit was perfectly tailored, his expression unreadable, and his eyes settled on her with calm recognition. "You," she said, softly stunned. He nodded once. "I am Michael." Ava swallowed, suddenly aware of how messy her hair probably looked and how wrinkled her jacket was from the bus ride. "I was not expecting to see you again," she admitted. "Neither was I," he said, but there was something in his voice, a faint warmth, that made her heart jolt. Before she could ask anything more, the receptionist reappeared and addressed him with a polite bow of respect. "Mr. Hale, your car is ready." Ava froze. "Mr. Hale, as in Hale Industries." She looked back at him confused, but he only offered the faintest smile. "We meet again, Ava," he said quietly. Then he walked past her toward the elevator, leaving her standing there with the sudden, unmistakable truth. The man she hid with last night was not just a stranger. He was Michael Hale, a man whose name she had seen in newspapers, on billboards, and in business headlines. A millionaire CEO, and he had been hiding in a closet with her. Ava stood in the lobby long after Michael Hale disappeared behind the elevator doors. The receptionist handed her a signed slip for the delivery, but her mind barely registered it. She stepped outside into the cool morning air, gripping the strap of her camera bag as if it could steady the sudden rush inside her chest. Michael Hale. The stranger in the closet was Michael Hale. She had seen that name on skyscraper banners, in magazine headlines, in business podcasts her roommate listened to. He was not just wealthy. He was the kind of wealthy people whispered about. a self-made millionaire with a reputation for being impossibly private. And he spoke to her as if last night meant something, as if he remembered every detail as clearly as she did. Ava shook her head, trying to clear it. She had work to do, bills to worry about. A life that had no room for impossible thoughts. She took the bus home, the city sliding past in a blur of glass towers and traffic lights. 2 days later, her phone buzzed with a new assignment from her boss. A midday meeting at the Hale Industries building. Ava stared at the message, her stomach flipping. Going back there felt reckless, but saying no would put her job at risk. So she went. The lobby was bright, filled with soft jazz and the scent of polished marble. She approached the reception desk again, expecting another assistant to come collect the paperwork. Instead, the receptionist pressed a button and said, "Mr. Hale will see you upstairs." Ava froze. "Are you sure I am only dropping something off?" "He requested it personally," the receptionist said with a polite smile. Ava stepped into the elevator, her heart pacing against her ribs. When the doors opened on the top floor, she was met with sweeping glass windows overlooking the skyline. The office smelled of cedar and coffee, quiet and calm in a way that did not match its size or power. Michael was standing near the window, reading something on a tablet. When he looked up, there was a softness in his eyes that surprised her. "You came," he said. Ava tried to steady her voice. "I was assigned to." Michael nodded slowly. "I know. I asked for you." Ava felt her breath catch. "Why?" He seemed to choose his words carefully. "Last night was unusual. You were frightened and you handled it with more composure than most people I know. I wanted to make sure you were all right." She hesitated. "I did not expect you to remember me." A faint smile touched his lips. It would have been difficult to forget. Ava felt heat rise to her cheeks. She tried to change the subject, placing the envelope on his desk. "My boss said you needed this delivered." "Stay a moment," he said gently. She stopped. Michael walked to a side table and picked up 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need one. You seemed tired the other morning." She blinked. He remembered that too. Ava took the cup with careful fingers. "Thank you. That is thoughtful." They sat across from each other, the city stretching wide behind him. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Then Michael asked, "You carry that film camera with you everywhere?" Ava looked down at the camera hanging at her side. "Yes. It was my mother's. I want to be a photographer someday." She gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "But dreams do not pay rent." Michael studied her not with judgment, but with quiet interest. "Why film? It feels honest," she said softly. "Every shot matters. You cannot erase it. You cannot redo it. You capture a moment exactly as it happened, flaws and all." Michael leaned back, thoughtful. "That sounds like something you believe deeply." "I do." There was a warmth in his eyes she did not understand yet. A kind of admiration. Before the moment grew too still, Ava stood. "I should get back to work." Michael rose as well. "Ava." She looked up. "If you ever want a place where your work can be seen, let me know." Ava felt her heart thud once hard. "I do not want special treatment." "It would not be special treatment," he said. "It would be deserved." She walked toward the elevator, her pulse fluttering. When the doors closed, she leaned against the wall, overwhelmed by the weight of something she could not name. Michael watched the elevator lights descend, his expression unreadable. He had met countless people in his life, but Ava Miller lingered in his thoughts in a way he could not explain. And neither of them knew it yet, but this quiet morning in his office was the beginning of a connection neither one could walk away from. Ava tried to convince herself that the moment in Michael's office meant nothing. It was just politeness. Professional courtesy. A CEO checking in on someone who happened to get stuck hiding beside him in a closet. That was all. But 2 days later, when her boss announced that Hale Industries had requested her specifically to assist with an upcoming charity gala, Ava's heart skipped a beat. She nodded quickly, pretending it was no big deal. Inside, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety that she could not quite untangle. The next afternoon, she arrived at the Hale Industries headquarters with a box of design samples and the event schedule tucked under her arm. The receptionist greeted her with a warm smile, already recognizing her from the previous visits. "Mr. Hale is expecting you upstairs." Ava stepped into the elevator again, the same flutter in her chest she had felt before. When the doors opened, Michael was already at the entrance of his office, as if he had been waiting. "Ava," he said, his voice calm but undeniably warm. "Come in." She followed him to a long conference table covered in sketches, catalog pages, and lighting diagrams. It reminded her that this was business. Real work. She needed to keep her head clear. "We are reviewing concepts for the gala stage design," Michael explained. "I wanted your opinion." Ava blinked, unsure she heard correctly. "My opinion, yes." He sounded completely serious. She hesitated, glancing at the elegant prints laid out on the table. They were beautiful, expensive, polished, nothing like the simple layouts she usually worked with. Michael must have sensed her doubt. "You see things differently than most people. You notice details. That can be valuable." Ava swallowed, then slowly reached for one of the mock-ups. She studied the colors, the harsh angles, the way the lighting focused too sharply on the center. She took a breath. "I think..." She paused, surprised she felt confident enough to say it. "I think this lighting feels cold. The guests will feel distant from the stage. If the goal is connection, maybe softer tones, warmer colors, something that feels more human." Michael's eyes warmed with interest. "Show me." She bit her lip. "I can sketch it, but it will be messy. I want to see it anyway." So she did. She reached for a pencil and began drawing quick strokes on a blank sheet of paper. Her hand moved almost instinctively, shaping a softer arrangement of lights, adding curves that brought the stage forward closer to the audience. When she lifted her head, Michael was watching her, not the sketch, but her. She felt her breath catch. "This," he said quietly, tapping the edge of her drawing, "is much better." Ava looked down at the messy pencil lines. "It is nothing special. It is honest," he said, "and honest ideas are rare." A silence settled over them. Not awkward, not rushed, just present. To break it, Ava cleared her throat. "I should get back. My boss is expecting updates." Michael nodded. "I will walk you out." He walked beside her, matching her pace, even though his natural stride was longer. When they reached the elevator, he paused. "Ava," he said softly, "yes, I enjoyed today. Your insight was refreshing." Her cheeks flushed, despite her best effort to stay composed. "Thank you. It was nice helping." As she stepped into the elevator, he added, "I hope we will work together again soon." The doors closed, leaving Ava staring at her reflection in the metal panel, trying to understand why her heart was beating the way it was. She should not be thinking about him like this. He was a CEO, a millionaire, someone who lived in a world that had nothing to do with hers. She was a junior assistant trying to pay rent on time. Their lives were not meant to overlap. And yet, they had. In a closet, in his office, in a quiet moment, over a sketch that should not have mattered but somehow did. That night, Ava sat at her small kitchen table, her camera beside her, the city's lights flickering through the window. She replayed his words, steady and sincere. "You see things differently. Honest ideas are rare. I hope we will work together again." Ava whispered into the quiet room. "Why do you keep showing up in my life, Michael Hale?" She did not know it yet, but the answer was already forming in his mind. He kept thinking of her too. Ava's days began to shift without her noticing. What used to be a routine of early buses, errands, and quiet evenings slowly turned into something different, something warmer, something she kept trying not to name. Her boss assigned her to work with Hale Industries more frequently as the charity gala approached. Each visit felt less intimidating than the last, mostly because Michael never treated her like a stranger or a junior assistant. He made space for her ideas. He listened. He remembered little things she said as if they mattered. One afternoon, after a long meeting about guest logistics, Michael paused before leaving the conference room. "You have time to walk?" he asked. Ava blinked. "Walk where? Just a few blocks," he said. "You mentioned you like old bookstores. There is one nearby." Ava hesitated. She knew this was a line she should not cross. It felt too personal, too familiar. But there was sincerity in his voice, not pressure. A quiet invitation. She nodded. They stepped out into the soft afternoon light. The city hummed with traffic and chatter, but their pace was unhurried. Every so often, Michael would glance at Ava, as if checking that she was comfortable. She found herself doing the same. The bookstore appeared on the corner, small and warm-looking, with vintage posters and a bell that chimed softly when they walked in. Dusty sunlight streamed through the windows, falling across rows of worn spines. Ava exhaled with a smile she did not expect. "It is beautiful. I thought you might like it," Michael said. She wandered between the shelves, running her fingers along the edges of classic photography books. She paused at an old film photography guide, flipping through the yellowed pages. "You know," Michael said, watching her gently, "you look more at ease here than you ever do in an office." Ava laughed quietly. "Offices are for people who know what they are doing. This place feels safer." "You do know what you are doing," he said. "More than you think." Ava closed the book, unsure how to respond. Michael picked up a different one, a thick photo collection, and handed it to her. "This one is for you." Ava shook her head quickly. "I cannot accept a gift like that." "It is not a gift," he said softly. "It is encouragement." She hesitated, then took it gently, feeling the weight of both the book and his words. They continued walking, flipping through pages together, sharing small comments and quiet laughs. For a moment, she forgot the gap between their worlds. But reality returned when her phone buzzed, a text from her landlord. Ava's heart tightened. She slipped the phone away before Michael noticed. As they left the bookstore, Ava looked up at him. "Thank you for today." "It was kind." Michael's eyes softened. "You deserve kindness." They walked back in silence, both aware that something delicate had formed between them. The next morning, Ava arrived at the Hale Industries office early with design updates. As she waited for the elevator, she heard raised voices down the hall. A group of board members were exiting a meeting room, murmuring about budget issues for the gala. When they passed, Ava entered the room to drop off a folder. Michael was still inside alone, rubbing the bridge of his nose. He looked tired in a way she had never seen. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. He looked up, surprised by her voice. "I will be. It has been a long morning." She stepped closer. "Is it the gala?" He sighed. "The board is concerned about the cost. They want to scale back the community programs we fund." His voice tightened slightly. "Those programs matter." Ava studied him for a moment. The composed CEO looked more human, more vulnerable than she ever imagined. Without thinking about it, she spoke softly. "You are doing something good. That matters too. Even if they do not see it." He looked at her slowly, his expression shifting with something quieter than gratitude. "Something deeper. You always know what to say," he murmured. She felt her breath catch. "I just said the truth." Before either of them could say more, another assistant appeared with documents, and the moment dissolved. But as Ava left the room, she realized her hands were trembling. Michael Hale had let her see a part of him few people ever did, and she was no longer sure she could pretend that meant nothing. Ava tried to keep her days normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Every time she stepped into Hale Industries, she felt the shift inside her. The quiet anticipation. The sense that her life was inching towards something she did not fully understand, and Michael was always at the center of it. The next week moved quickly. Meetings, calls, and preparations for the charity gala filled Ava's schedule. She worked late, sketching stage layouts at her tiny kitchen table, her film camera sitting beside her like a quiet reminder of the life she once dreamed of. But even when she was alone, she kept thinking of Michael. The way his voice softened when he spoke to her. The way he noticed things about her no one else had ever noticed. The way he seemed to relax around her in a way he never did with others. One late afternoon, her boss sent her to the rooftop terrace of the Hale Industries building to photograph potential lighting angles for the event. When the elevator doors opened, she stepped into the golden glow of the setting sun. She was not expecting Michael to be there. He stood near the edge, hands in his pockets, staring out at the skyline. The wind ruffled his hair slightly, and for a moment he looked less like a powerful CEO and more like a man carrying the weight of too many expectations. Ava hesitated. "I did not mean to interrupt." Michael turned. The tension in his face eased when he saw her. "You did not." "I am just thinking." She lifted her camera slowly. "My boss asked me to take reference photos." "Go ahead," he said. She began snapping pictures of the terrace, the sky turning soft shades of apricot and rose. Michael watched her move, his eyes following her with a calm curiosity. "You are good at that," he said quietly. Ava lowered the camera. "I just like seeing things the way they really are." Michael stepped closer, but not too close. Just enough that she felt the warmth of his presence. "Then, show me," he said. She blinked. "Show you what?" "What you see." Ava hesitated. She raised the camera again, then looked at him through the lens. The moment felt delicate, almost intimate. She adjusted the focus, capturing the line of his jaw, the way the setting sun fell across his face, the quiet strength in his eyes. She lowered the camera, her heart unsteady. Michael held her gaze. "What did you see?" Ava swallowed. "Someone who carries more than he admits." His expression shifted, almost startled by her accuracy. He looked away for a moment, gathering himself. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "Most people only see the title, the money, the decisions. They do not see the rest." Ava stepped closer, her fingers brushing the edge of her camera. "I see someone who actually cares. That is worth something." Michael's breath caught almost imperceptibly. "I cannot remember the last time someone said that to me." The wind moved around them, carrying the distant sounds of the city far below. The skyscrapers glowed like scattered embers in the dusk. They stood in silence until Michael's voice broke it gently. "Do you want to stay for a moment?" he asked. "Just enjoy the view," Ava nodded. They walked to the railing together. Not touching, not crossing any line. But the quiet between them felt full, warm, real. As the sun dipped lower, Michael spoke again, his voice low. "Ava, do you ever feel like you are on the edge of changing your life, but you are afraid to take the step?" Her throat tightened. "Every day." He looked at her. "Me too." The confession hung in the air between them, simple and honest. She turned her face toward him, seeing once again the man from the closet, the man who was calm in the dark, steady when she was frightened. For the first time, she wondered if he had been hiding long before that night, hiding from pressure, hiding from expectations, hiding from loneliness. The rooftop lights flickered on. The sky faded from gold to deep blue. Ava lowered her gaze. "I should go," she whispered, even though she did not want to. Michael nodded. "I will walk you down." Inside the elevator, their reflections stood side by side in the metal panel, close but not touching. Ava's heart pounded in the quiet space. When the doors opened in the lobby, Michael spoke one last time. "Ava, thank you. For today." She met his eyes, seeing something unspoken, a truth neither of them was ready to say, but both of them felt. "Good night, Michael," she said softly. He watched her leave, his expression unreadable but filled with the weight of a feeling he had not allowed himself to understand until now. And Ava left the building with a truth forming quietly inside her. She was falling for him. And he was falling too. The week of the charity gala arrived with a rush of final deadlines, rehearsals, and last-minute budget meetings. Ava barely had time to breathe between tasks, yet every moment she crossed paths with Michael felt like an anchor in the chaos. His presence steadied her in a way she never expected. She tried to tell herself it was nothing more than admiration, but the truth was harder to ignore with each passing day. On the afternoon before the event, Ava visited the gala venue to finalize lighting cues. The ballroom was a cathedral of glass and gold with stage lights hanging like floating stars. As she inspected the spotlight placement, her film camera swung gently against her hip, a familiar comfort. Her phone buzzed. A message from her boss, Michael Hale, wants you to review the final program with him when he arrives. Ava felt her pulse quicken. She told herself it was work, just work. But when she saw Michael walk into the ballroom, a few minutes later, dressed in a dark suit and speaking quietly with the technical director, her breath caught anyway. He approached her with a small smile. "You are early. I wanted to make sure everything is perfect," she said. "It will be," he replied, his voice softer than usual. "You made it that way." They reviewed the program together near the stage stairs, standing close enough that Ava could feel the warmth from his arm. Every now and then she caught Michael looking at her as if he was about to say something, but held it back each time. When their meeting ended, Ava went backstage to check the last delivery. A few of the board members were inside reviewing cost sheets, with sharp voices and impatient gestures. The tension was unmistakable. One of them, a tall man with steel-gray hair, noticed Ava lingering near the supply crates. "You there," he said, motioning toward her. "You are the event assistant, come here." Ava stepped forward, unsure. The man tapped the corner of the stage design mock-up. "Did you help create this layout?" "Yes," Ava said carefully. "In collaboration with Mr. Hale." Another board member scoffed. "Michael has been distracted for weeks. We are over budget because he keeps entertaining. Suggestions from outside hires." Ava stiffened. She knew what that implied. The first man leaned closer. "Look, young lady, Michael is respected because he makes rational decisions, not emotional ones. We are counting on him to keep this event focused on business, not personal interests." Ava's stomach twisted. "I think there has been a misunderstanding." "Has there?" the man asked, raising an eyebrow. "Because from where we stand, he has grown unusually involved with someone who should have no real influence here." The words stung in a way Ava did not expect. She grabbed the edge of her clipboard to steady herself. Before she could respond, a familiar voice echoed through the room. "What exactly are you implying?" All heads turned. Michael stood in the doorway, his jaw tense, his eyes sharp with quiet anger. Michael, the gray-haired board member, said, "We were just having a conversation about priorities." "No," Michael replied, stepping forward with a controlled calm that felt colder than ice. "You were questioning someone's value in this project. Someone whose contributions have improved every aspect of this event." Ava's breath halted. The man crossed his arms. "You are letting personal bias affect your decisions." Michael's voice dropped lower. "And you are mistaking respect for bias." The tension thickened. Ava felt every pair of eyes in the room shift toward her. Shame spread through her like heat, even though she had done nothing wrong. "I should go," Ava said quietly. "I am only here to deliver the last of the materials." She moved toward the door, wanting nothing more than to escape. But Michael stepped after her. "Ava, wait." She shook her head. "They are right," she whispered. "I should not be involved like this." "That is not true," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "It is. You are a CEO. They expect you to be perfect and distant and untouchable. I am not supposed to be anywhere near your decisions." The room fell silent behind them. Ava kept her eyes on the floor. "This is exactly why I told myself not to get close," she said softly. "Because I knew someone would make it look like I did not belong here." Michael reached for her hand, but she stepped back before he could touch her. "Do not," she said. "Please." The hurt that flickered across his face almost broke her. "I need to finish my work," she whispered. "And I need space." Then she turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing through the empty hall. And for the first time since the night in the closet, Michael Hale let her slip out of his sight, not because he wanted to, but because she asked him to. Ava spent the rest of the evening working behind the scenes of the gala, moving like a shadow. She kept her head down, refusing to linger anywhere Michael might be. She checked lights, polished glass podiums, and laid out guest programs with a focus so sharp it almost hurt. Anything to keep her mind from replaying the way those board members looked at her. Anything to avoid the memory of Michael's expression when she stepped away from him. By the time she left the venue that night, the streets were quiet. The city lights shimmered across the pavement, but Ava felt hollow, as if someone had unplugged something warm inside her. She walked home alone, clutching her camera bag to her chest. The next morning, she woke early, pulled her hair back, and gathered the last of her materials. Tonight was the gala. Tonight she had to be perfect. She reminded herself over and over that this was just work. Michael Hale was her boss's client, nothing more. Her world and his world were never meant to collide. Still, when she arrived at the venue and saw him across the ballroom giving instructions to the lighting crew, her breath faltered. He looked composed, but his eyes carried a tension she had never seen before. He gave her a quick glance, a silent check to see if she was all right, but she looked away immediately. The hours leading up to the event passed in a blur. Guests began to fill the ballroom, dressed in shimmering gowns and immaculate suits. Orchestral music echoed through the high ceilings. Cameras flashed. Voices rose and fell like waves. Ava stayed behind the curtains, documenting everything with her film camera. The familiar click of the shutter grounded her. It was one of the few things that still felt like hers. Just before the program began, Ava stepped backstage to switch camera rolls. She froze when she saw a framed poster being placed near the entrance. Her heart jolted. It was her stage sketch. The quick pencil drawing she had made at Michael's request. The one she had been embarrassed by. The one she never expected anyone to use. The small plaque beneath it read, "Concept by Ava Miller." Ava's breath trembled. She touched the frame, lightly stunned. She knew instantly whose decision this had been. Before she could process it, the program began. A host walked onto the stage, welcoming guests and thanking sponsors. Applause filled the ballroom. Ava moved to the side aisle to get a better angle for photos, staying far enough from Michael to avoid drawing attention. But when the host said, "Please welcome the man whose vision made tonight possible, Mr. Michael Hale," the room erupted in applause. Ava lifted her camera, framing him through the lens. Michael walked onto the stage with steady confidence, but his eyes scanned the crowd once before settling on her. Just for a second. The look was soft, quiet, almost pleading. Ava felt something crack inside her. Michael began to speak. He talked about community programs, about investing in young voices, about the importance of seeing value where others might overlook it. Every sentence carried the weight of something deeper than business. Then he paused. "There is someone I want to thank tonight," he said. "Someone who reminded me that honesty and creativity matter more than perfection." A hush fell over the room. "She showed me how to see things differently. And this event is better because of her." Ava felt her legs weaken. She lowered her camera as the audience murmured, curious waiting. Michael continued, "Her name is Ava Miller, and her work is all around you this evening." A spotlight shifted slightly, illuminating her sketch behind glass. Guests turned to look. Ava's chest tightened. She had not expected this. She had not asked for this. She had told him she wanted distance, but here he was choosing the exact opposite in front of hundreds of people. She stepped back, overwhelmed. She slipped behind the curtains and found a quiet hallway. Her breathing shook as she leaned against the wall. Moments later, she heard footsteps. "Ava," Michael said softly from behind her. She wiped her eyes quickly and turned. "You should not have done that." "I had to," he said. "You walked away because you thought you did not belong. I needed you to see that you do." Her voice cracked. "People are talking. They think I have influence I should not have. They think I distracted you." Michael stepped closer, but not too close. His voice was steady. "You did not distract me. You helped me. You made this event better. And I will not let anyone twist that into something it is not." Ava swallowed hard. "Why does it matter so much to you?" Michael's eyes softened in a way that left no room for doubt. "Because you matter to me." Her breath caught. He continued quietly, "I should not have let them make you feel small. I should have told you sooner." He paused, gathering the last of his courage. "Ava, I care about you. More than I planned to. More than I should." Ava's heart pounded. Tears threatened behind her eyes. She whispered, "I do not know if I can fit in your world, Michael." He shook his head gently. "Then I will meet you in yours." It was the simplest promise, and the one she had feared and longed for all at once. Ava exhaled slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just need you to be honest with me. No secrets? No hiding." Michael nodded. "No more hiding." For the first time since the night in the closet, Ava stepped toward him instead of away. And Michael let out a breath he had been holding for far too long. Ava did not return to the ballroom right away. She stood there with Michael in the quiet hallway, the soft pulse of the music drifting through the walls like a reminder of the world waiting outside. Her heart steadied in her chest, no longer racing from fear or doubt but from the weight of what she finally allowed herself to feel. Michael watched her closely, not pushing, not rushing, simply waiting for her to breathe again. When she finally did, Ava nodded toward the direction of the event. "You should get back on stage," she said softly. "And leave you standing here alone?" he asked. A small smile formed on her lips. "I am not alone." For a moment, neither of them moved. The closeness between them felt different now. Clearer. No longer clouded by misunderstanding or hesitation. Ava gathered her courage, lifted her chin, and said, "Let us finish tonight. Then we will talk about everything." Michael exhaled in relief. "I would like that." They returned to the edge of the ballroom together. Michael stepped back into the crowd as the program resumed, but he glanced at her once more before disappearing into the lights. Ava slipped to the side aisle, lifting her camera and capturing moments of the evening faces filled with kindness, hands joining in applause, the warm glow of the room that she had helped shape. For the first time, she saw her work not as something small, but as something that mattered. When the gala ended, people lingered near the framed sketch, complimenting its simplicity and heart. Ava hung back, embarrassed but proud. It felt surreal. She had never imagined anything she created would hang in a room like this, let alone with her name written beneath it. After the last guest left, Ava helped collect programs and clean up backstage. She had just finished stacking the last box when she turned and found Michael leaning lightly against a column, watching her with quiet warmth. "You stayed late," he said. "Part of the job," she replied. He stepped toward her. "Ava, I meant what I said earlier. You matter to me, and I do not want to pretend otherwise." Ava looked down at her camera, then back up at him. "I was scared. Everything about your world feels too big, too polished. And I am not." Michael shook his head. "You are exactly who you need to be. You already proved that tonight." Ava held his gaze. There was no tension now, no confusion, just truth. She took a small breath. "So what happens now?" Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out something she recognized immediately, the film roll she had used earlier that day. "I had the lighting crew collect this," he said. "You left it near the stage switchboard by accident." Ava blinked, surprised he even noticed. He placed the roll gently in her hand. "Your work deserves to be developed. And I want to see what you saw tonight." Her chest tightened with emotion. The film roll had been one of the first things that connected them. It was the piece of her she feared nobody would ever take seriously. Ava looked up at him. "Only if you promise to be honest, from now on, no disappearing. No hiding in dark closets unless completely necessary." Michael laughed quietly. "I promise. No more closets." The lightness in his voice made her smile, but the sincerity beneath it anchored her. He held out his hand toward her. Not forceful, not demanding, just an invitation. A place where she belonged if she chose to take it. Ava stepped forward and placed her hand in his. They walked out of the ballroom together, past the framed sketch, past the fading echo of applause, past the room that had changed both of their lives. When they reached the exit, the cool night air wrapped around them, carrying the distant hum of the city. Ava looked up at the sky, then at Michael standing beside her. "We started in a closet," she said softly. "And somehow," he replied, "it led us here." She leaned her head lightly against his shoulder, feeling the calm settle inside her. For the first time in a long time, her future did not feel uncertain. It felt open, clear, full of possibility. Michael brought her closer, his voice low. "Ava, whatever comes next, I want it to be with you," she whispered back. "Then let us build it honestly." They stood there under the glow of the city lights. No secrets, no fear, no hiding, just two people who found each other in the most unexpected way. A mistake that became the beginning. A misunderstanding that became fate. And a love that finally had nothing left to run from.